We're here with David Icke at the Community Media Center in Santa Rosa. David began his career at a very early age. The age of 15, he was already playing professional football. By the time he was 21, he was ready to shift from that career over to a career in journalism. And from journalism, he continued on to become a sports commentator at the BBC and rose up very high within the BBC. He became also a spokesman for the Green Party, and at the height of his career had a life-changing experience. And that began his, one could say it was a hero's journey that took him on another road entirely that he's been on for about 20 years now. So I'd like to welcome to the studio Mr. David Icke.
Thank you, Osha. Nice to be here.
Pleasure to have you here today. So I'd like to ask you a little bit about the moment that you got the call on the hero's journey and decided that you would say yes and you would begin the quest.
Well, as you say, I was a professional soccer player, as you would say. My career finished at 21 with arthritis, and I went into journalism through the 80s with the BBC, the Green Party, and then my life started to change. From 1989, or through that year, every time I was in a room alone, it felt like I wasn't. And this was all new to me. I didn't know anything about this stuff. But it built up and built up through the year. And eventually, I'm sitting on the side of a bed in a hotel in London when I'm working with the BBC. And the presence in the room is so tangible. I just said to the room, if there's something there, would you please contact me? You'll drive me at the wall. And a few days later, not many days later, I was in a news shop, a newspaper bookshop near where I live in England. And my son was there, and I said to him, come on, Gaz, you're only a little boy then, 27-year-old singer-songwriter now. And I said, come on, we'll go up the town and get something to eat. At which point my feet wouldn't move. It was like my feet were being pulled to the ground by like magnets. And all I heard, as I'm thinking what's going on, is this very strong thought form went through my head saying, go and look at the books on the far side. What? So I went across, and in among the romantic novels that shop sold mostly was this woman's face on a book, and I picked it up because it was different. And it was by a psychic called Betty Shine. It was called Mind to Mind, and I turned it over, read the blurb. My immediate reaction was, will she find out, or will she pick up what I'm feeling around me? So I went to see her on the basis of she did hands-on healing. I had the arthritis, so I made the excuse. It was true, though, that maybe her hands-on healing could help, but I was just keeping everything else back to see what happened. And first two times, we had a nice chat, a bit of hands-on healing, and the third time I went, she was doing something around my knee, and I felt like a spider's web on my face. Which she said in a book you sometimes feel when there's other entities or energy around. So I didn't say anything to her, but I'm thinking, oh my goodness, that's what she said in her book. And about 10 or 15 seconds later, she shoots her head back and says, my God, I've got to close my eyes for this one. This is powerful. So I'm going, what's going on, And she started saying she could see a figure in her mind who was asking to pass information. And funny enough, the first thing she said, though I never told her about the story in the hotel, was, we know you wanted us to contact you, but the time wasn't right. You've not been brought here to be healed. At this time anyway, you've been brought here to be contacted. Okay. And then it was, you're going to go out on a world stage. You're eventually going to be world famous, revealing great secrets. One man cannot change the world, but one man can communicate the message that can change the world was one thing I remember. You will write 5 books in 3 years on these subjects. I thought that was ludicrous. Trying to write 5 books in 3 years, we might get them published. And subjects, what subject? I know nothing about it at the time. And that there was what it called, in the widest possible sense, there was a spiritual revolution coming, because there was a vibrational change taking place that was going to awaken humanity from its basically sleep state, its coma state, its program state. And so I left the BBC. Series of very synchronistic things made that happen.
That's what I call a call.
And I went on this journey, and I earned nothing for a long time. I just went on. I just feel this is right, and in the end, I ended up in Peru in February 1991, when I'd gone around the country with this guide, and he booked us into this hotel in a place called Puno, called the Siyustani Hotel. And they called it the Siyustani because it was named after an Inca ruin about an hour and a half's drive away, and pictures of this place were all over the hotel. Every time I looked at the pictures, they were basically saying, go, go, go. You know, you get these urges, go, go. And so I hired this tourist bus, 'cause it's all out of season, and me and this Peruvian guide and the tourist driver went off, and I went round this ruin, and it was nice, it was lovely, this really uninhabited area, surrounded by distant mountains, a lagoon and a hill and ruins on top. It was lovely. But when I went back to the bus after about an hour, I thought, it's nice, but this doesn't fit or sync with the urge I had to come.
This?
Yeah, Siyustani, there you go. Oh my goodness me. Oh, that's the first time I've seen a picture of that from that angle since I was there. How interesting. I got in the bus to go back, and I'm looking out the window, just daydreaming away as I do all the time, and I saw this mound or this hill to my right, about 3 minutes down the road, and I looked at it, and all I could hear in my mind was, come to me, come to me, come to me, come to me. So I thought, you know, what's happening to me in my life? So I said, you know, can you stop the bus? I'm going up that mound. And I said I'd be a minute. Well, I was an hour or so. And so I walked up, and when I got to the top, I couldn't see it from the road, but there was this circle of standing stones. Very, very old standing stone circle. And I stood in the middle of it. And I looked back across to Siyustani and the distant mountains. And my feet started again, only like in the shop, only much more powerfully.
So the same kind of
it's like magnets. It's like a burning feeling. You know, it's not unpleasant, but you can feel it like a magnetic connection of some kind. And then the first thing I heard go through my mind when I'm thinking what's going on was, they will be talking about this 100 years from now. I'm thinking, talking about what? And the next thing was, it will be over when you feel the rain. But in the sky was the Peruvian sun, and not a cloud to be seen anywhere. It will be over when you feel the rain. It's like, all right.
How long do I have to stand here?
And then, yeah, I thought, be here a month. And then I felt this like drill going in the top of my head and through my body, and another flow coming the other way. And then my arms went out at 45 degrees like that, without even thinking of doing it. And while I'm like, I mean, my arms are aching now just doing this. Well, they were like that for the best part of an hour. They were agony when it was over, but I didn't feel it during that period. And this energy started coming through me, really, really powerful. My body was shaking in the end. And you know, you go in, when you drive in the car, you lose a few miles because your subconscious has been driving it, because your mind's been somewhere else. I mean, we'd all be dead without the subconscious, you know. Anyway, that was happening to me during this experience. And on one occasion when I came back and sort of realized I was here, I saw a light grey mist over the distant mountains, which became darker, and I realized it's been raining. And over this period, I mean, the whole thing lasted about an hour, just over or so. So it was very quick once it started, and this rainstorm came out of the mountains towards me, and it was literally like a straight line, like pulling curtains across the sky. And it's coming towards me. The sun was covered eventually, and there's all these billowing clouds like dry ice in the sky. But as it came towards me, it's like a wall of stair rod rain. By the time it's got close, I'm watching it come towards me. If you made this up, put it in a movie with special effects, they'd go, oh yeah, all right. But it happened. And so eventually the rain hit me. And by the time it did, my body's like, I'm plugged into an electric socket. And then when the rain hit me, it all stopped. And I staggered forward because my legs were gone. My shoulders were agony. And from that moment, something massively shifted in me, because for the next 3 months, I didn't know what my name was, let alone what planet I was on. And when I look back, and I went on primetime television doing this, right, in that state, and I attracted fantastic ridicule. But what I, with hindsight, when I look back, what happened is that, if you like, a bubble burst and allowed something else in. And I was being deluged with insights and concepts and thoughts and realities. And I've described it as like when you press too many keys on a computer and the computer says, I can't handle all that information, I'm freezing, all right, I'm out of here. Well, for 3 months I was like that. And then after 3 months, everything morphed back. The computer unfroze, if you like.
So that was sort of like that period of integration
Yeah.
that you needed, and you ended up going out in front of the media before you'd had a chance to digest and integrate all this energy that was
that was fun. Actually, that was fun. That was, you know, when I think about it. But
it's part of the road of trials in that hero story there.
and it gave me so much, because the enormous ridicule I went through. I mean, I couldn't walk down any street in Britain in the early 90s without being laughed at by people in large numbers. Going into a bar or a public place, forget it. And what that did for me was clear me out of the prison that most people live in, which is the fear of what other people think. Because not just in my case, you know, I'm not some special person. I'm going through the journey, a lot of it in the public eye, but I'm going through a journey that everybody else can go through, and many more and more are going through, and indeed unconsciously go through anyway, in terms of experience coming into their lives as an expression of their personal journey. But when I look back at the connections of my life, rather than the individual links in the chain, I see how it was all necessary, and why and how my personal journey, my personal experience, and what I'm uncovering and communicating are fundamentally connected. Because when you think of some of the, well, from the mainstream perspective, shall we say, bizarre things that I'm talking about, they're not really, but from that point of observation, they seem to be. If I had not been cleared out through that extreme experience of ridicule, of the fear of what other people think, then I would have done what most other people do, is either not gone there when I saw where the information was taking me, or if I did go there and have a look at it, I certainly wouldn't sell publicly what I feel is going on, because what will people think of me? Frankly, I don't care, because they have a right to think of me as they choose to think of me, and I have a right to be me as I choose to be. That's the deal. And so that ridicule, again, while in the moment it was horrible and it seemed as if my life was over in any kind of way, it was the making of me. And it's an interesting thing, you know, if what you say has validity and you keep going with it, you don't stop and have to try to explain and defend yourself from everybody. You just do what you believe to be right. If what you're saying has validity, it will eventually be shown to be so. If you stop because you feel sorry for yourself, or you think, I can't take what it takes to keep going, then that validity will never be perceived, because you'll never have spoken the truth that could be, you know, that people could then see, hey, it just makes sense now.
So in a way, that ridicule cleared you out.
Yeah.
And allowed you to really go deeper into the hero's journey, because you had already lost that sense of caring what people thought about you. You'd already leaped off the cliff and taken the risk.
Yes,
so
that's a very good analogy.
So now you were free
actually.
to go deeper and really go on that journey.
Yeah, that was a very good analogy, because some people said to me, some of my friends, they said, did you not realize what the reaction would be when you started saying that? And I thought, I was a journalist for years. Yes, funny enough, I did realize what the reaction was going to be. But you jump off the cliff because something tells you, go with it.
It's true, isn't it, of the hero's journey, is that there's always that place where you're questioning, going, you know, you can't really see completely, you know, you're trusting that it's going keep going to the end, even though you can't see specifically every part of it, but it's that ability to just go, I'm going forward.
That's how the information's come to me. You know, most amazing things have happened to me when information has just been there, exactly on a subject that I'm focusing on at that time, where if you let your head rule, they'd say, oh, you don't do that, you go there. And what happens in the end, I've found, is there comes a point where the head has seen enough experiences of following your intuition, there it is, you can't do that, but then because of that, going with your intuition, it leads to a series of events that, and there might be challenges there when the head's going, I told you so, but actually a few notches down the road, you see that it's all worked out, not despite that, but because of it. And your head starts to, your mind starts to observe this, and it goes, hold on a second, when you follow this, it might lead you into some scrapes and challenges because it's seeing reality in a completely different way. Therefore, it's judging experience and what you need to do in a different way. But it all works out in the end. And what happens is this: your conscious mind and your intuition come together. And you know, I've reached a point in my life now, for some time, where my intuition says, "Go there," and my head goes, "Okay." There's no division, there's no argument, it's I'm going.
Isn't it true, too, of any creative process, that you have to be willing to open wide, you know, to something that is far beyond the conscious mind and the reasoning mind, and allow that to just come in and inform you and take you along the way and carry you in some sense?
We have two hemispheres of the brain. One is like it processes reality as a sequence, which is what gives us the illusion of time. It processes things as apart from everything else, and it's into language and all this stuff. The right side of the brain is the creative, the artist, the maverick, the unique spin on life, because it's connecting us out to a higher level of awareness. And we live in a left brain world. And it has been specifically structured, and I explain when I talk how it's done in detail, to be planted in the left side of the brain from the earliest age. And we call it the education system, which is actually the indoctrination system. What happens in the education system is young children, right the way through their school years and up into university and college, are given overwhelmingly left brain information. They're told to remember it and then repeat it onto exam papers. And when people do that really well, they progress within the system. You get rewarded for being programmed like that. And then they decide on their specialization. It might be medicine or science, even politics or whatever. And they go through the next stage, like their scientific exams, the medical exams and all that stuff. Or they might be going to academia and going to higher levels of examinations to progress in academia. And it's all left brain information. And if you are very good at this stuff, then you might end up running these institutions of medicine and science or politics, by which time you are a fully blown left brain prisoner. You notice how the artistic things in schools and colleges, like art and music, the things that get you out there, move you creatively, they're all minor to the academia.
They've been getting cut more and more, it seems.
Exactly
like
that.
A lot of the creative and arts programs that help develop that full brain thinking.
Exactly.
Whole brain
thinking.
So you're advocating for people to really find and express their own really deep
uniqueness.
Power.
Uniqueness.
Power.
Power. You see, everyone being one infinite consciousness is not... People think, well, if you're talking about being one consciousness, then we're all going to be clones, aren't we? What is that consciousness? That consciousness is all possibility. All that has been, can be, and ever will be. So expressing uniqueness is expressing and glory in the all possibility that we are, all of us. And what any controller, dictator, suppressor has to do, because it can't cope with people in that state or even close to that state. So it has to suppress and make uniform the way people think, the way people see themselves, the way people see the world. You take these things that are supposed to be like polarities, communism, fascism. They're not polarities, they're the same thing. Why? Because it's centralization of power in the hands of the few over the many. And what do both want? Uniformity. What is globalization? Uniformity. You go around the world, the uniformity, you can see it coming all the time. And uniformity is a few possibilities within all possibility. So I'm saying that the deepest, most prime level of human state, human awareness, is silent, still, all possibility. Because people think, you know, if I stop talking and I say, what did you hear? They'd say, nothing. And yet within that silence is everything. It's all possibility. And when I start talking, I'm pulling one possibility out of all possibility. And when I stop talking, it goes back again. And so that's the prime level. And that's everything connected to everything else. And then when you come into the realm of what you might call creation, form, that's holographic. It's the illusion of physicality. It's the illusion of three dimensions, if you want it, three-dimensional states, if you like. But it's still all connected. Because one of the amazing, unique characteristics of a hologram is that every part of the hologram is a smaller version of the whole. If you cut up a holographic print into 4 and fire the laser at one of them, you're not going to get a quarter-size version of the whole picture, or a quarter part of the whole picture. You're going to get a quarter-size version of the whole picture. Not a piece of it, as you would think, because it doesn't work like that with holograms. And so you look...
The whole is implicit in each tiny part of the
Exactly.
whole.
No matter what expression it takes, everything is always part of the whole. And the world and reality is far more amazing than most people even realize. And we need to lose the idea that we live in a physical world. What we're looking at here only exists in here.
Well,
only exists in here because we're decoding it.
Right.
You know, in the Matrix movie where Neo says this isn't real, and Morpheus says, well, words to the effect of, what is real? If you're talking about what you can see, touch, taste, etc., then real is only electrical signals interpreted by your brain. Exactly. And on Saturday in San Rafael, and in my books, I explain this in great detail. It is so simple. Complexity hides the simple genius behind it all. You know, it just shows you, if you keep going and you do what you know to be right, and you don't let any amount of challenge and ridicule and all this other stuff stop you walking, it's amazing what can manifest. But if you give up, of course, or feel sorry for yourself, how can it manifest? It can't.
So you would advise people that if they get the call to go on that hero's journey, and they become afraid that they're going to have too many challenges and that road of trials, and that starts to scare them, that they should listen to the message you're giving, which is that it's worth it. You can go through, you'll come back up, and you'll come back up with the gifts gained from having done that journey through the underworld. Yeah,
and you do go down some dark places. And sometimes you have to. If you're trying to change energy, if you sit cross-legged on the mountain above it all, what are you going to change? The idea that, you know, you have to live this life of from this reality perfection to do what you do. I mean, often that's the last thing you need to do from the perspective of this world, but actually it is perfection, because it's what you need to do what you've come to do. It's just that your consciousness is seeing that you need to do that, whereas your conscious mind is seeing it a different way. But like I said, fortunately, my head and my heart speak the same language these days, and it's a much easier place to be. And also, you know, it's easier to go through this now because so many more people have been through it, this transition, this transformation, that where people went through it thinking, what's going on? You know, now the tools are there and the experience of others is there to say, just relax, this is what's going on and it's all going to be fine.
So it must be nice, though, after having gone through this for 20 years, you've been on this journey for 20 years.
I have.
To have some
and I look like it, don't I?
To have
You wouldn't think I was 25, would you?
to have some sense of really being in a good place with it.
I'm in a great space. You know, there are always people trying to bring you down, always people trying to exploit you and live off your back and all this stuff. And you have to deal with them, and you'd rather not, you didn't have to. But they are like flies on an elephant's back compared with the joy of doing it. And when you go to an event like New York last Saturday, and you see the energy there, you see the faces, you see the, yes, I can do it. I'm not a slave anymore. I'm not Joe Public. I am something greater. You walk off the stage and you go, hey, what other job, what other thing would I like to do with my life apart from that? Nothing, thank you very much, challenges or not.
So that's what brings you bliss.
You know,
Yeah.
it's fantastic, yeah. All you've done, this is the important point, is just helped people remember. I'm not telling people anything they don't already know. And that's why it can be so powerful, because you know, when, say you I don't know, you go to the beach years ago with a group of people, and years later you meet one of them and you say, oh, do you remember we went to the beach that day? And they go, no, I don't remember that. No, you know, and then you give them one trigger, and it's like, do you remember so-and-so, he was on that horse and he'd had a few and he fell off on the sand. Oh, yes. From that moment, that person who couldn't remember the event can now reel off all the details of it. Why? Because that memory's been opened. And that's what this information is doing. It's opening the memory of all of us to what we already know but have been mercilessly manipulated to forget.
And do you have a copy of your book here with you? This is the cover of your
There
book.
it is, yeah, that's the one.
There's...
And I've got a great friend, Neil Haig. He's an artist friend of mine. I've known him for a long time, like about the last 17 years. And we have this telepathic kind of connection that I tell him what I'm seeing and he paints it. And he's got very creative. He does a lot of his own creativity from his own self too. But I had that image in my mind, and I said, I want a male lion. I want the world painted on it, and I want eyes, specifically the eyes. The eyes have to be right. The eyes have to be saying, don't mess with me. And it was about the real humanity emerging from the sheep-lamb humanity, using symbolism. And that title, Human Race Get Off Your Knees, The Lion Sleeps No More, has really resonated with a lot of people. Not just, yeah, I've got to get up off my knees, but the realization for many people from that phrase, do you know, I am on my knees, aren't I? Aren't I? I think I'm free. Am I free? No, I have to get up in the morning, I have to get in my car, I've got a traffic jam at the same time, I go to work and I can't leave until they decide that I can leave, otherwise I'll get the sack or whatever. Then I'll get in the traffic jam going home. My kids leave home in the morning, they have to go at a certain time, they can't leave school all day, they're in prison just like me, and then they come home and they have homework to do because the teacher said you got to, and there'll be trouble if they don't. What are we doing? We're infinite consciousness, all that has been, ever will be. And that's our life. And that is the first step. That's the acknowledgement you are a slave, Neil. And then you take the pill and bingo, I ain't having it anymore. Come on, let's go, let's go.
Thank you so very much. It was a pleasure to meet you today.
Oh, you too, Ashley.
Just a
Thank you very
pleasure.
much.
Thank you for coming.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.